This show is supported by you, our listener. Stick around till after the news to hear more about that. This is Cup of Go for Sunday, December 7, 2025. Keep up to date with the important happenings in the Go community in about 15 minutes per week. I'm Jonathan Hall.
And I'm Shai Nechmad.
Hey, Shai. Don't talk to you on Sunday very often.
Yeah, it's a chill episode. It's easy like Sunday morning. I am here to update that 2 weeks ago I said that I'm going to a basketball game and I'm going to take a Waymo. And that happened. And the basketball game was awesome.
Cool. And the Waymo didn't catch on fire.
No, it drove super smoothly through like quite a lot of traffic challenges next to the Chase Center. People like walking on the street on the way to the game and whatever. Mm-hmm. It was a super smooth ride. Not sponsored by Waymo, by the way.
Of course.
I don't even know if they use Go, so they can go and, whatever.
We don't know.
But yeah, it was a very good game.
Awesome.
Any other NBA fans, if you're following, Denny Avdia is having a really good season. And I'm enjoying, I don't know, maybe if Denny's listening, I don't know if he knows Go, but Denny, if you're listening, go Denny. He's like this Israeli player in the NBA.
If Waymo is using Go, do you think they've upgraded to Go 1.25.5 already?
I would highly recommend it because of the new security releases that I'm about to tell them about.
Yeah, tell us about those.
So Go 25.5 and Go 24.11 are released with two security fixes related to the X509 package. X509, if it sounds familiar to you, it's like, wait, crypto stuff usually I don't remember, but this I remember. This is certificates, which is something you usually see on every website, right? And, well, hopefully you see on every website you visit.
Not on my website. I don't mess with that silly stuff.
Yeah, we should have, you should look for that little, actually, browser user experience has done a pretty good job. Even my mom, when like she visits an unsafe website, she can figure out that it's going on right now.
Nice.
And underneath, TLS, like SSL, there is 509. And there are two very easy to understand bug fixes there, which is, again, something pretty rare with the security fixes, but I like. One of them is from Philippe Antoine, Katana Cyber, which we mentioned on the show before. I really like their website, which is when you construct an error string in the host name error, there's no limit to the number of hosts that will be printed out. So if you want to DOS Go's like some Go code, probably a server that does stuff with certificates, you can set a certificate with a really, really, really big amount of hosts, and then the last one will have an error, and then it will just concat a really, really long error string and might cause runtime problems because it's like quadratic runtime. Mm-hmm. So that makes a lot of sense, right? As an attack vector, it's just like a field you control.
Yep.
How would you fix it? Or you the Go team? Or Philip?
I don't know.
So there's this weird case where, well, the spec says you can send as many as you want, but you just have to be sort of pragmatic about it. So they're using strings builder instead of just concatenation, which is a good trick to know generally, right? String builder is a more efficient way always, I want to say, ? Is that true, or am I misinforming the people?
Say it again. What was the question?
Is strings builder always more efficient than just concatenating, or am I misinforming the people?
I think it is. I think it always is. Whether it's worth the extra boilerplate
got it.
Is the question, right? But I think it's always more efficient.
Yeah, so they use strings builder, and also just pragmatically, they're like, okay, if a certificate has 100 or more, we're not printing them. So all the devs that relied on the error message having 102 get fewer domains. And the second fix is also pretty cool. Do you remember how certificate chains work?
Vaguely. Like you can like certificates can sign certificates.
Yeah, exactly. Works, right? And you have a few root certificates that you trust, right? And then they give out permission to certificate, like Let's Encrypt or whatever, to give out certificates in their name, etc., etc.
Yeah.
what do you think if I get a constraint, like an exclude constraint, in my certificate? So, like, let's say our website, right, www.capogo.dev.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we personally had the certificate there. Although you set that up, so I don't know. It's probably some managed service, right?
I think transistor.fm handles that for us.
Yeah. So let's say we managed the whole thing. We built it from the ground up, whatever, and we held the certificate. And then we had api.capogo.dev. And we didn't want the certificate to cover that because that was served from another server.
Sure, yeah.
Should we be able to then define a certificate on star? If we excluded api.capogo.dev, should we then have the SAN star.capogo.dev in our certificate?
So we could say star.capogo.dev except for api.capogo.dev.
Yes.
Should we? I don't know. Like, according to the spec, I don't know, but it seems logical that it could potentially be allowed.
You struck the nail on the head because this is just not well defined in the spec.
Okay.
This is just a case that's not well defined in the spec. It's like two edge cases, extra features, right? Star and exclusion are both not like the happy path flow. So it sort of slipped through and they fixed it. It's a minor security bug, but to me, it was interesting just because of the way, you think about specs like these as like, oh, if we just implement everything perfectly to spec, everything will be fine. But when the rubber hits the road, when you actually have to implement these specs, you discover they're just as faulty as the code that implements them. Like sometimes they're incomplete at all.
So what was the bug and how did they fix it?
A bug is sort of a, strong word to use for this, but let's say you have an exclusion and then in one of the leaves of, I mentioned the chain, right? Yeah. So one certificate below, you have the star. You should get an error. You should get
So it was ignoring the exclusion, like the star was overriding the exclusion previously.
Yes,
and now it
will throw an error that looks like star.capogo.dev is excluded by constraint, blah blah blah.
Okay,
which to me makes more sense. Like when you evaluate the name constraints now in a certificate chain, if you have an excluded subdomain, precludes the use of a wildcard like a star.
Got it.
Which makes sense, and it is a CVE. It is a CVE.
Okay.
But I'm not sure why. Like the thing, it is like it did get a CVE number. It's even a 6.5, but I don't understand how I would use it. Like I don't get it. I think it's just they discovered a thing that was wrong, and it's because of it's in the crypto space. It just automatically gets a CVE or something. But I racked my brain, and I don't understand how I can use it to actually attack something. So the Leaf certificate can claim the subdomain using a star, but both of them are by definition owned by the same certificate owner and everything's trusted. It's just like a minor bug, but I don't understand how. The only thing that would happen is that your excluded subdomain will get the certificate. So everything is just like maybe too secure. I don't know. Anyway, it was an interesting bug to look at. And yes, Waymo should definitely upgrade if they use Go. Rest of our listeners that probably do use Go, and Denny Avdia, which I hope you're not using Go because you're supposed to be practicing your 3-point shot right now. You should upgrade.
Awesome. I have a quick update to share. I could have sworn we talked about this on a previous episode, but I can't find which episode. So maybe we didn't. Maybe I dreamed that.
It has the update on past news items label.
I thought we talked about this, but maybe I just imagined talking about it. I don't know.
So before you go into it, if any of the Trello developers, Atlassian developers are here on the show, if you could have parameterized labels, that would be awesome. If I could like add updated on past news items and then a date, that would be really, really good. Or a link.
So anyway, this is an accepted and as far as I can tell, merged proposal. So I think it will be in Go 1.26. Although it's not mentioned in the draft release notes yet. But that doesn't mean anything. It's still draft release notes. The proposal is to allow type parameter in the right-hand side of an alias type declaration, which previously was not allowed. So you can create type aliases in Go. You probably know that, where you say like type foo, and then you say equals something. So normally you would say like type foo int, and then it creates a new type called foo. This underlying type is int, right? Or you could do type foo equals int, and now foo is an alias to int, and then you could use foo and int interchangeably, and the compiled code is identical. And they're there's no they're aliases rather than a new type of the underlying type.
What's the case where you usually use those aliases? I can't imagine you actually overwrite int.
I don't do it for int. No.
Yes.
No. Although there are aliases, by for like a byte slice. Well, that's a special case. Byte int 8 and byte are aliases of each other built into the language, right? So there is that. There's a few cases like that. It's usually used, at least I usually use it, and the reason it was added to the language is when you're migrating types between packages, and you want both packages to remain compatible with each other during the migration, which might last months or years even. So you could use an alias to say that, type foo equals other package.foo.
I also use it when there's just a really long type I have to type. Whenever it has like way too many things, for example, a function pointer, that's just a trick that's still with me from C++. Like whenever you have to define a function pointer type, you define the alias first, just so it has a nice name and it doesn't have all the function calling looking things like open parens, call parens within parameters, which is why I really like this like proposal, because it hits on a similar issue.
So the proposal is that you can now put type parameters or generics in the right-hand side of an alias type, which isn't something that has like bitten me that often, but there have been a couple times where I'd wish I could do that. So I think it's a nice change to the language. Here we are, almost 10 versions after generics were added. We're still making generics better.
Making generics great again.
Yes. All right.
Talking about making the language better, ? Someone brought to our attention a project called Dingo.
Ooh.
Maybe the dingo ate your baby.
Dingolang.com, which is not Go, or is it? ?
It kind of looks like Go, kind of.
Yeah. So it's this meta language that's supposed to fix, air quotes, some things that are wrong with Go. It offers some nice. So the way it works, it's like a meta language above Go, right? You can find it on GitHub, and it did seems like it has like 1,000 stars and whatever it is. When I looked at the README, and we shared this sentiment, it looks like, oh my God, the README so long. It has a website, it has a logo, it has all these tags on it, and a roadmap and features, quick start. Like, that's so much documentation. It looks so nice. I was sure it was like a proper project. It is very early. So that's one thing to remember. It's like super early. It's like one person and their Claude, subscription, which to me just raises the bar on, okay, for something to be open source and for me to actually trust it, it's not enough to have a lot of stars and a really, really good looking README. I have to find someone that actually uses it. But before we talk about the meta of the project itself, what even is it, right? Try to explain it. It's not that hard.
Well, I think you kind of explained it already. It's a transpiled language.
Mm-hmm.
So you write a .dingo file and then you transpile it to Go, and it adds things like enums and error handling, sugar, and there's a short list of things here that it does.
It basically makes Go look kind of more rusty and kind of more TypeScripty. So it takes
immutable
some features
variables.
From Rust.
Yeah.
Result types, and you can match on the result, and it's like, okay, so some types with pattern matching, and the null coalescing thing, which is everybody who uses a TypeScript or JavaScript will know. It's like user ? Address ? City ? .name ? Unknown. So it's like, okay, you can define a variable called something, and then try to reach super deeply into a struct that you don't know if the thing is there or not. And worst case, you have a fallback without writing the word like if. And it also has some functional utilities like map and reduce and filter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are one of these people that want to make Go slightly more rusty, would you tell them to reach for a Dingo?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
I would tell them to reach for Rust.
I think there are two cases here. If it's greenfield, you're just working on something new, or you just want to nerd around with languages, then maybe, it's just a side project. Maybe you can check Dingo out. But this is a super new project. If you look at the issues, some like half of them are trolling, half of them are the hello world example from the README is not transpiling at the moment.
Yeah, I noticed the package's own CI pipeline is half of its tests are failing right now. So
yeah, so it's very early stage. But let's say it worked. Let's say like the CI was green and all the examples worked and whatever. Putting aside like the fact that the project is kind of new, I would seriously question if you need something like this. I do think it's an interesting project to do. Like I would love to write it for fun in the same sense that I would love to do, and for learning in the same sense that I would love to do, Advent of Code, which we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And, there's no point, nobody benefits from me solving Advent of Code and sharing like how I solved it. It's not like something that anybody could use, but it's interesting and people might learn from it. I think here it's the same thing where, putting aside all the AI generated README nonsense, if you actually look at the features, you're like, oh, maybe I would like to use null coalescing or find something similar that I could do within my Go code.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like if there's a specific struct, I find myself the null coalescing all the time. Maybe I can wrap it in some interface that makes it look similar-ish,
right?
Like a get or panic or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a fun toy project. I have concerns about it, like for serious work. One of those is, why would I transpile to Go rather than just compile straight to like Go objects that run on the Go runtime? I suppose maybe the main reason not to do that would be that there's no way to distribute libraries as object files right now. So unless the Go compiler tools are extended to allow compiling arbitrary files to Go objects, there would be no way to like write my library in Dingo and have someone else use it in a Go program without having the intermediate Go. So maybe that's valid. But
and some examples are kind of hard to argue with, especially enums. Like enums is a notoriously weak spot in Go, and the Dingo enums look pretty nice. You just like define an enum and it generates all the Go code for you, which is what I used to do with protobuf, and that's a good example. Result types, I don't know about that. Error propagation, that's actually nice, and people have talked about it for a long time. We talked about it in the show that they had a discussion to end all discussion. Remember that?
Yeah.
But they were like, okay, we're not going to talk about error handling anymore. So I guess people are now implementing it in meta languages as well, which we can't complain about because they can't implement it in the real language because it's not allowed anymore, et cetera, et cetera. I just wanted to point out before we drop this that I think it's a cool, like fun toy project, like you mentioned. But remember that, just the fact that something looks really good right now doesn't mean it's good. I feel like almost how I need to talk to my parents about deepfakes right now. This looks like a deepfake of a real open source project, but when you look at the hands, they have 6 fingers, and when you look at fabric, it's like. So that's what I feel right now. It's like a toy project by one person, only single contributor, with this Jack person. Jack, super cool stuff, but because of the landing page and all the, if you don't look actually at the code itself and try to run it, it seems like a very serious project with lots of work put into it, where in reality, it's a lot of tokens being generated. And the quality is sort of not there yet. So I just want people to keep that in mind when they look at a project like this, or generally like open source coming up. It's going to be harder to detect projects that are actually good versus projects that are, cool and whatever, but are still immature. And to me, the thing that like uncovers it is that all the markdown files are really well written with no typos, but like folder names and GitHub descriptions, like things that are not AI generated normally, do have typos. Like landing page instead of landing page. But then you open the landing page itself, it's like it has things that humans will never write. Debug strategies.md. You know what I mean? Like nobody's going to write that on a personal project. So cool stuff, cool ideas, fun toy project. I don't think like anything more at the moment. And to be fair, it does say on the README in a lot of places like, oh, this is not ready for production. This is just a progress, a thing, active development thing. So it's not trying to be something it's not.
It also says production ready, real API server, no toy examples. So it covers itself in that regard. Yeah.
Well, it might have been different chat sessions that wrote each one with different context windows.
Yeah.
So that's Dingo. That's our opinion on it. I don't think I'll be checking it out. I won't follow the development because it doesn't solve any pain that I care about.
Agreed.
But people trying to push the language in different and interesting ways is always good, even whether it's from the inside or from the outside. Jonathan, because of this Sunday vibe of this episode, suddenly I realized we've been going for very, very long.
Yes, 25 minutes already in real time.
Yeah, maybe the edit episode is like 2 minutes. I hope there's slightly more usable content that's not going to be thrown to the editing room floor. However, there is one topic I want to say that we're not going to talk about.
Ooh.
You brought to my attention this really cool Reddit post. This time not from the Golang subreddit.
Yeah.
But from the Reddit engineering subreddit. You sent it to me with the old.reddit.com.
That's where I got it. That's how I found it. So, yeah.
Jonathan uses Linux, by the way, just unrelated.
And Shai will never let you forget. Let the record show. Shai brings it up more than I do.
What is this post about?
It's basically a shit post on Python. Not really.
My favorite.
So Reddit has been rewriting some of their backend services from Python to Go, and they just recently switched over the comment endpoints to use Go, and that's what this is about. But we're not talking about that, as you said.
Yes, we don't want to talk about that because I suddenly realized that Reddit, you all are like my neighbors. The Reddit HQ is here in San Francisco. I would like to find one of you. If any of our listeners know any of the Reddit developers, maybe someone who worked on this migration, try to connect them to us. We would love to have them like here on the show. And I will also comment on that Reddit post and say that. I'll tag whoever Katie Shannon. I'll try to reach out to her. If any of our listeners know Katie, let her know that we're looking for her. But yeah, obviously we love these stories of, we used Python for a thing. It was horrible. And then we used Go and everything's awesome. And the gratuitous, let's look at the 99% latency comparison. But I'm actually happy that this post is kind of old. It's 4 months ago. Because now, at this point, they've already spent enough time with it in production that they have insights about, okay, we know it's faster and whatever, but our developers are having a good experience, a bad experience. They're enjoying it. This is a migration that will continue to other modules or not. They're slightly more informed than just turning on the benchmarks and discovering that the compiled language is faster than an interpreted one. Very cool.
All right. I think we have a couple lightning round items. Let's do our break, couple lightning round items, and then we actually have an interview this week. Yeah. We're going to be talking about ML, AI stuff in Go with Hugo. So stick around for that.
Lightning round.
So first up in this week's lightning round, you may recall I was in Utah. Gosh, was it 2 months ago? It's been forever, It feels like. It also feels like it was yesterday. I was there at the Go West conference, which was a lot of fun. The videos from the conference are now online. So if you want to see the fancy gopher tie I was wearing, you can go check that out. Organizer of the Amsterdam Go Meetup group, back when I was there. And does anybody here listen to Cup of Go?
I do.
Yeah, all right. I'm the co-host of Cup of Go. Has anybody seen my YouTube channel, Boldly Go? Got a few hands there too. Cool.
Is there any talk you'd recommend other than your talk?
Yes, definitely.
Which, of course, everybody will need to watch with the inflammatory title, "You're Already Running My Code in Production."
Yeah, there were a bunch of great talks. I'll just call one out that I really thought was good because it was kind of unique, and that was the fundamentals of memory management in Go. And this might sound kind of boring. If you think memory management is boring, then you should watch this talk because it approaches it from a different angle. It's not like, here's the technical stuff about how memory management works. It's more like why memory management is important and why you should care. And you actually probably should care, at least 20 minutes worth. So go watch that talk. And honestly, there were a bunch of great talks there, but I don't have time to talk about them all. This is a lightning round.
My lightning round thing is, do you know how slow is channel-based iteration?
Slow.
Yeah, it is slow. It is actually very slow. And if you're the sort of person that likes looking at benchmarks and benchmark code, but you're looking for a short blog post to do it, then Zach Musgrave has got you covered. He posted this blog post called "How Slow is Channel-Based Iteration," and it has all the gratuitous benchmarks you could have with a simple topic as "How should we do iterations?" So go check that out if you're interested. It's from Dolt Hub, which is a interesting thing to start with. It's like a technical. You can clone the DB and create branches and whatever. That sort of approach. Very cool stuff, Zach.
And last up on the lightning round, tomorrow, or maybe today if you're listening to this, I don't know when this episode is coming out exactly, but Monday, December 8th, 1 p.m. Central Eastern European Time, Ask Me Anything with the GoLand team. If you use GoLand or want to use GoLand or have questions about GoLand, check this out. Sorry we're not mentioning it sooner. I know a lot of you are not going to listen to this episode as soon as it comes out, so you'll miss it already. But if you have the chance and you're interested, link to that. Ask Me Anything with the GoLand team, Monday, December 8th.
Yeah, you can fire up, GoLand as soon as you hear this, and by the time it boots up, the AMA will be over already.
I think that's it.
Yes, let's take a short break and then run to our interview about AI and ML and all that good stuff.
Woo.
Go MLX. This show is supported by you, as Jonathan has mentioned at the top of the episode. This is a hobby. We do it for fun, but it is kind of expensive. If you want to support us, you can do so by doing a ton of things. Listening, which you're already doing, is a great start. The most direct way is to join our Patreon, which is a place you can drop, a monthly contribution and help us offset the costs of running the show. And we really appreciate all our existing and future Patreons. Existing more, because by definition, you've paid more already. So, you got a special place in our hearts. To find the links to all the things, you can go to cupago.dev, which I have already mentioned a ton of times as a domain example on the show. I don't know if it's considered like native advertising, that when I'm trying to explain certificate chains, the example I gave is cupago.dev. Is that like not legit? I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'm sorry if you found that a bit, tactless. But what you can find on that domain is a link to our Slack channel, link to our swag store, all past episodes with transcripts. And you can also find our email address, news@cupago.dev. Other than all that, a great way to support the show is to leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts, or sharing the episode with a friend or a coworker. If something we mentioned is useful to you, you're like, oh, Dingo, someone on my work Slack mentioned it and suggested that we move to it. So I should share the episode and let him know that Jonathan and Shai think that's not a good idea. That'll be good. Other than that, we wanted to, apologize on behalf of our swag store thing. It has a lot of production delays recently, and people have been experiencing, they're ordering the thing and it's not coming. If that happens to you, let me know. I'll via email. I'm working on it. I know one person has done so already, and I'm still working on it. I'm sorry it's taking so long. But yeah, just some delays in our swag store. So if you ordered something and it didn't reach in a timely fashion, shoot us an email and we'll take care of it.
All right. I think that's it for our break. Stick around for our interview, and we'll see you next week.
So, John, someone recently told me that Go is a very verbose language. You know what I mean? You got to type if error is not equal to nil. Very, very verbose. And I was like, maybe, it's like French. They get paid by the letter, even if they don't, even if you don't really use it. Like if error is not to nil for things that don't. If only I had someone on the call who introduces letters that we can't hear in French all the time.
So what you're saying is that as Go programmers, we should demand to be paid according to the lines of code that we produced, right?
Yeah. Instead of hourly bill, it's just like French.
All the error handling, just churning our money.
Yeah. Error spelled with like EUOROURREUX. Error.
Error.
Hello, Riccardo and Jan. Please introduce yourselves.
Maybe I'll start. So I'm Riccardo. I'm head of R&D at Knights Analytics, and I've been working for around 2 years now, also on open source and Go, in particular for machine learning, running machine learning models in Go. That actually started for the needs that we had at Knights Analytics, our data management platform, to actually be able to run these kind of models in a streamlined way without requiring Python microservices or other stuff. And we then thought, well, let's open source what we've been working on. And well, some of the listeners might remember that 1.5 years ago or so, when Jonathan was still in the Netherlands, we did an episode on Hugo, which is a library that is kind of the equivalent of, or aims to be the equivalent of, Hugging Face transformers. For those that don't know, Hugging Face transformers is a very commonly used Python library to run machine learning models. And we aimed to develop something that could be used by the Go community with the same kind of ergonomics, right? So make it easy to run this kind of pipelines. And so we open sourced it, I think it was around 1.5 years ago. Since then, we've been doing quite a lot of work extending what you can do with it. And part of that has been also working with Jan, who I will can introduce himself in a moment. And that has actually supercharged, I think, what the library can do. So we discussed. I still remember with Jan, it was like, well, it's been a year with that we've been working with Jan also. And at the beginning, we were brainstorming, hey, this could actually be, a Go equivalent of like the stack that we use in Python, where you have Hugo as sort of like the high level embeddings, and then Go MLX as being the sort of equivalent of PyTorch under the hood, doing the difficult heavy lifting. And we've been doing quite some progress in that direction. So Hugo has matured. It started also to be picked up by other projects. So, for example, if you've heard of like the Bento streaming library in Go, now they have preprocessors that rely on Hugo for NLP and machine learning streaming preprocessors. We've also seen recently that, for example, for the Go bindings of Redis, the examples that they give on how to actually calculate embeddings and store them in Redis uses Hugo. And actually all of this has been possible because of the work that Jan has been doing. So maybe we'll go over it in a moment, but then I'll leave the field to Jan to introduce himself, because he has a very impressive CV.
Oh,
all right. Great intro.
Such an intro.
Yeah.
Jan, how about you introduce yourself?
I really like
warm up.
Like stage for the start of the evening.
All right, Jan, tell us about yourself.
Okay, I've been in this industry for long, so I'll tell the end of it, which is the more interesting part. And you ask if I should go further, but I'm in the end or the beginning, depends on how you see it, of my FIRE journey. FIRE as in financial independence, retire early, right? It's not that early because I've worked a lot, but I started working very early in my life, always in computer science. But anyway, I'm basically retired, and I've been the last year and a half fully working open source. That's my hobby and my passion in GoMLX and some related projects. Before that, I worked most of my more important and impactful professional life in machine learning and applied research for almost 15 years in Google and 10 years before that in Yahoo, a few startups and a few other stuff. But that's a very long story short.
All right. So we know who you guys are. We know that you're working on Hugo and GoMLX. Let's talk a little bit about what's new. Maybe we could do that for just a couple minutes. What's new since the last interview for those who listened in a year and a half ago when we did that?
I'm Riccardo Pinosio. I'm a machine learning engineer, and I currently work at Knights Analytics, which is a company that builds essentially solution for master data management.
What are the big highlights in the last year and a half in the Hugo world?
Yeah. So I think when we did the first interview, we had essentially a small set of pipelines or things that Hugo could do, right? The one that actually basically we built it for and that most people actually started using it for was the calculation of embeddings, right? There was a time when actually vector search was very popular, became very popular. And so everybody was calculating embeddings and then storing embeddings in vector databases and so on and so forth. And we had that need, and that was sort of the beginning, what we had at the time. Since then, there's been quite a lot of development. So the first big highlight, I would say, is that we now, at the time, we only supported Onyx runtime as a backend. So that meant that if you wanted to use any type of model, Onyx runtime is something from Microsoft. If you wanted to use any type of model, you basically needed to install on your system the C libraries, right? That would allow you to essentially then run inference. Hugo at the beginning was basically just binding to the Onyx runtime API. And so you needed the C library for both tokenization. Tokenization is when if we take a sentence, we need to split it into words, let's say. And also for then inference, for example, calculation of the vector embeddings. And that was fine for our purposes, because for our product, we basically just containerize everything and then we can put whatever SO we want and so forth. But binding to C has a lot of issues when you can't do that, right? And we started seeing a lot of people that said like, oh, actually, it would be nice if you could do this without in native Go, basically, right? And the work that we have been doing with Jan has been we have been able to deliver that in the sense that now we have a Go backend for Hugo that is called Simple Go, that was built by Jan. He can explain what it does better than me, but that meant that you can now use Hugo without having to install any of the C stuff, right? That is also, for example, what the Bento streaming library does, right? You don't need to use the Onyx runtime backend. It will come at some performance cost, but that means you don't need C. And that, to be able to deploy Hugo on cloud and so on and so forth, it's a big win. The second thing that is new is that we have extended the capabilities of what Hugo can do. On the one hand, we can do more pipelines. So, for example, we can do image recognition, which people have already started using. So we extended beyond just vector embeddings. We can do image recognition. We can do re-ranking, like cross-encoding. And we can now, since recently, also we can do generation. So actual, use Pfeifer models, this kind of stuff to actually be able to build chatbots. And that's actually the most thing that we're still very much active now on, to try to improve that part of, well, if I want to use a generative model and build my own local LLM, right? My local chatbot or whatever, that's that is the focus of our attention at the moment. Also because we want to use it in our product, so that's one of the main drivers. And the other thing that came in Hugo, and also this relies a lot on what Jan has built, is training, the ability of actually doing fine tuning of your model. So not just inference, but also say, give examples to the models and, for example, make your vector embeddings better for your use case. And that relies heavily on GoMLX, because without GoMLX, it would not have been possible. Actually, at the beginning, I started doing that by writing the bindings to the Onyx training API. So Onyx Runtime had a training API for on device. And then I wrote the bindings for that. There was still bindings to C. And then exactly the moment when I finished the bindings, they deprecated the library. And so that was
Classic.
very nice. So where do I go from there? Fortunately, GoMLX then came into the view, and with GoMLX we are able to also train the models without requiring any Python. So that is kind of like the upshot of the new things. And as you can see, a lot of these things rely on what Jan has been doing. So maybe I'll leave Jan to explain a bit about Simple Go, GoMLX, what GoMLX is, and
that's my big question. As before we were recording, I said one nice thing about hosting a podcast like this is I can be stupid without shame. So I'm going to ask a stupid question without any shame. What in the world is GoMLX?
That's a very good question.
Yeah. GoMLX is like PyTorch or JAX or TensorFlow for Go. It's a machine learning framework. It's meant to build and train your models and serve them also. It's for people who want to do ML. So it's a little bit a lower level than where Hugo is. Where Hugo I see more as where people want to use ML. So I think GoMLX is where someone who wants to train a model, fine-tune a model will go to. So these are layers, right? Hugo is further up in the stack. Then comes GoMLX, a machine learning framework. And GoMLX itself, while I did the Simple Go implementation, which it works, it serves a purpose, but it's not by no means as professional as another backend that GoMLX also used, which is XLA, which is the real professional accelerator for speedy computations. But it's raw. Nobody wants to use it directly. You always use it through some machine learning framework. XLA is by Google, and it's the one that JAX and TensorFlow uses, and PyTorch can also use it if you're doing large scale, because XLA is really good for that. But XLA is just number crunching. You still need an ML framework on top to make things for humans to use.
Okay.
And yeah, so one I think characteristic of GoMLX that fits Hugo need is that it works with the concept of backends. It's a generic ML framework that can run on XLA, can run on a backend that is pure Go, so there is no need to install anything in C. And we are already working on different backends. So we want to make it run on WebGL, maybe in Vulkan also. We also wanted to use Onyx Runtime as a backend to execute. So there is a few of those plans in the pipeline still. Does this paint a picture of what these things are?
Basically. So I mean, I've not used any of those other tools you talked about. I tinkered with the TensorFlow many years ago when it was brand new, just kind of to get my toes wet. But that's as far as I've ever done any machine learning at all. So, but I have a better sense now of what GoMLX does than I did before I asked. So
everything after that is easy. I mean, as in, if you use the TensorFlow at the beginning, now it's much easier. The whole situation. So.
Yeah. And it is important to note, this is like just to clarify for the listeners, this is like AI, the bigger picture. This is like machine learning. This is not just for LLMs and things like that. So if I were to train a model that uses some regression to find, I don't know, to match audio
Yes.
and does something,
Yeah.
not like a large language model or even necessarily a transformer. Like I can use Go MLX to do the classic dog cat, like classifier, for example.
Or the other day, someone asked to do a air conditioning controller, a smart air conditioning controller, and the output of the machine learning is how much energy to put in the cooler, and the inputs are the temperatures. So all types of machine learning problem. AI or LLMs, all these terms are a bit confusing. Is one type the most successful by far, but one type of machine learning. Machine learning is the generic tool, mathematical or statistical tool to learn things by example, if you will.
Yeah, so I just want to make that distinction clear for users, because there's for listeners, sorry, because there's a lot of things coming out right now that call themselves AI frameworks, but if you open them under the hood, they're just like, oh, this is actually just calls to OpenAI in a library. It's not actually like machine learning, and it still might be a useful framework or whatever, but it's very far removed in the like layers of machine learning, AI engineering, and software. I would consider in that regard Go MLX to be pretty low level.
Yeah, the thing is, if you put the stamp AI in your product, you immediately get investment from everywhere, even within the companies, right? So if I could rename Go MLX, I would put an AI somewhere in the name. And
now you got to get with the times. Now it's agents.
Oh yeah,
agentic machine learning framework. That's the golden ticket now. I want to ask, maybe this is again, just like Jonathan, an obvious question, but I think this will be actually a good leading question for you both. Why? So I think every listener who did work with data science and had like machine learning projects, especially in production, knows that normally right now in the industry, the standard is to do this with Python. Even in your examples, in the tutorial for Go MLX, I think, or maybe it was Hugo, one of them, the tutorial was in a Python Jupyter notebook. It had Go code in it, but you know what I mean? Which was cool to see, because I've never seen a Jupyter notebook with Go code inside it before. That was really cool. But the extension of the file is literally IPy notebook. You know what I mean? Like IPython notebook. My big, I guess the big question I have is why go through all this effort to even do it in Go and not just use, Python libraries that already exist?
I would say something on because you mentioned the Jupyter notebook is that, I mean, in principle, Jupyter notebook can run not just Python, right? So I think originally when it was developed, could run also R. I'm not sure if you guys know R as like the programming language. It was actually my second programming language that I worked with after Lisp.
Yeah. R and Julia and all these like scientific, MATLAB, all these like scientific.
Exactly. So it can run, it's just a kernel, so it can run multiple programming languages. But actually, Jan also wrote the framework to be able to run Go, right, in Jupyter notebooks. And actually, I didn't know that. So we started working on the machine learning thing, and then I started finding Jan's name on all sorts of cool libraries for machine learning in Go, like the Go NB, I think, right? That's the name, Jan. So that's very nice. Why, from my perspective, and then I think Jan can give his own, but from my perspective, the reason for us was very practical. Is we needed to deploy solutions and build software that did not rely on Python for a variety of reasons, security reasons. The kind of stuff that we develop needs to be deployed in situations where not even one vulnerability is allowed. We actually have 0 vulnerabilities in our software with all of the 3 or whatever number of scanners that we ran.
You hear that, hackers? Riccardo posed the challenge. The 0 vulnerabilities. Go prove him wrong.
Yeah, please do not. Please don't do that. But so we couldn't use Python. For that was one of the reasons. The other reason was it simplified deployment, because otherwise you need to have microservices, for example, and then you need to have a microservice that serves the prediction of the model if your main application is in Go, and so on and so forth. And it just streamlined, to be able to do it in Go, just completely streamlined our architecture. And so that's essentially one of the main drivers for us to be able to do that. Jan, if you want, do you want to chip in on this point?
Yeah, my story is a little different, but has some common points. I worked in ML. I was there when TensorFlow was created in Google, right? For a long time. I always disliked Python. More than I dislike Python, I disliked how people use Python without types and things like that. I was always in the applied research team. And that's where the rubber meets the road, if you will, of crazy researcher code that, is super fancy, does really smart things, are really bad at code, and then we have to productionize that thing. And so I disliked that. I also disliked TensorFlow. I had many issues with it, but I use it every day. But it was a giant itch that I've been meaning to scratch. And to also Go. I always loved Go. I used it from the start. Being Google was easier. And I think machine learning should exist in every language. It's like a database. There should be a good framework in every language. There was no machine learning in Go, so I thought, okay, let's do this. And I think Go is an awesome language to productionize these things, as Riccardo mentioned. So it needs something like that. It could... someone could leverage this to do awesome services. I mean, machine learning should be everywhere, and you need services to drive that and to come with users' requests and drive this into the proper ML modeling and stuff like that. And Go is perfect for that. Now, Go is also very good for the problems a machine learning practitioner or data science do. It's very easy to optimize processes that are not necessarily machine learning, like pre-processing data sets and stuff like that. Parallelism, supernatural in Go, which in Python was incredibly slow in some cases.
Also, I would say it's interesting because Go is a particularly good language, I think, also for data scientists that are not software engineers. So if you come from a data science, more machine learning background, right? And Python obviously is very popular because as a machine learning researcher or data scientist, you don't necessarily want to worry about like the production aspects, right? In principle. The alternative, used to be like, okay, well, then you have to do it in C, right? Or whatever. And those languages, that's much more difficult. You're not going to, as scientists are not going to, I mean, I'm generalizing here, but a lot of them are not going to go through the pain of like to do that. And the beauty of Go is that it's kind of like in between, right? It's a very elegant, simple language, something that as data scientists or scientists can actually use and learn very quickly, and that is, I think, also a great advantage.
I agree. My brother does data science work, and he and I work on a project together. And so Python and R are his comfort zone, right? But I've never used either one to any real extent. So, we're working on this project together, and I'm writing it in Go. And he's I wouldn't say he's proficient in Go yet, but he can certainly understand it. And he's commented several times that he likes it. It's easy for him to understand, coming from the Go and R background. I think it's a shame that there aren't more people using Go. I think the strengths that Python has as a language, being relatively easy to understand, fairly accessible. Go has virtually all of the same advantages. It's just missing the runtime, the libraries and the runtime integration that thankfully you guys are now building for us.
That in a way, yeah, that's kind of also the goal, right? And the aim, yeah.
Now, I should say that it's a lot about the ecosystem, right? The flourishing ecosystem in ML that we have in Python. We don't yet have in Go, but I think there is a space. This world is big, and there is a space for more than one flourishing ecosystem of ML. Now, ML or data science is much more than the language itself. Is also the tooling is important, right? And that's why part of this work has been doing other associated projects, like a kernel for Jupyter Notebook, so you can easily write notebooks in Go, plot graphs, see how training is going, and things like that. These are needed to make this successful or usable in practice. It's not just the auto-differentiation and machine learning math. You have to have a good environment.
You also need this kind of soft stuff, let's say, around, right, to strengthen the ecosystem. Yeah.
So the long and short of it is, subjectively and objectively, Go has some benefits, in your opinion, for this sort of workloads. And subjectively, but importantly, you're like tired with Python's nonsense. That's I relate so badly. So I feel you.
Can I say something about the state of affairs in that? If I were to guess, I think from ML, what you need to do ML in Go right now, if you go and Go MLX, maybe you have 2% of what exists in Go in Python. But the 2% covers, I don't know, 80% of the use case. So maybe I'm being too, it's more than 2%, I don't know. But, it covers a lot of ground and enables lots of use cases. So for many things, one can use Go if they are familiar with it or if they choose to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 80-20 rule kind of thing, right? Like, I mean, also for you, Go, the main driver, and it's still the big workhorse of why people are using it, is the embeddings for semantic search, right? Because it's a use case that, many applications are now just integrating that kind of stuff, right? The being able to do image recognition thing is useful. Some people will use it, but it's definitely not the main driver, right? The other main driver, I hope at some point, it will also be the generative stuff, because I think that that is definitely useful to be able to run your chatbots locally, for instance, using Yugo. But yeah, so there's definitely that 2% or 3% of the work is often drives most of the use cases. Yeah.
I think a lot of people who do AI or AI sort of look in workloads right now, and myself included, whenever I have to do something like run a model locally or embeddings is a great example. And I want to work in Go, which I do in my own projects, I use Go. Like I had to embed some text right now.
Yeah.
I just spin up Olama and everything that's AI is a network call away. Like it's never in my actual Go runtime, which has the benefit of, I don't have to write anything, but has this downside of, okay, I have to run an Olama server. I have to download the model. And to me, it also feels like I have no idea how it works. It's like, okay, I'm spinning. It might be running locally on my machine, but, I'm not writing Olama. I'm not writing these models. I'm not actually tuning them. If they don't work well, I'm like, I'm out of luck. I don't know what to do, and I don't have anything to tweak in. If I were to take this specific workload just as an example, because it's a workload that I'm doing right now, and I were to say, okay, I want to use like I really want to do it, quote unquote, myself. I want to embed this text myself, chunkify it myself, and not like have a third party do it for me over a network call. Even though it's happening locally, it's still like remote. Do you think I would have more insight or more control in the process, or would it sort of look the same? It would be like get embeddings and you have no idea what's happening. Or will I have more like capability to tweak it and understand what's happening and go like deeper in the weeds if were I to use like, the Go tooling?
I would say, I mean, of course, I would say so, right? In the sense that, so on the Olama side, the one thing that I also don't understand, maybe that has changed, is indeed, right? It's a network call away, but actually Olama is written in Go, right? So at some point I was also looking at, okay, is there like an SDK for Olama that I can use without having to go via the network? And at that time I couldn't find it. Maybe that has changed. But I would say that there are benefits in doing it not over the network, but using something like Hugo, for example. Well, one of them is also simply is that you can build, for example, workflows that also fine tune your embeddings. So you can use the off the shelf open source models, but then if you have a specific a use case that requires you to fine tune the embeddings for that use case, I think Hugo plus GoMLX makes it quite easy now to be able to do that and also get insights on what's happening in terms of all of the different metrics that you can calculate there, quality metrics. That's at least my 2 cents on this.
But yeah, what do you think? Is it like, will it allow me to have a deeper understanding of what I'm doing with these workloads?
Certainly allows, but if your use case is just to use the given AI the LLM that you're given, then it doesn't matter, right? You be a co-local or in the network, except for the latency that you're paying.
Yeah, I mean, the use case is to use a thing that's off the shelf until it doesn't work very well. And then, you know what I mean? If it's a Go library, I always feel like, let's say I'm using a serialization library. Right? I mean, you're a basic user of, let's say, protobuf, and you use it for a month and it's good. And then you want a specific feature, like you want to figure out exactly how one-off works. When it's Go, you can like double click into the code you're looking into, you know what I mean? Go to definition, understand what's going on. What I'm trying to understand is, will Hugo and GoMLX allow me to have that insight of like clicking into embed things and maybe understand what's going on? Or are they similar to the Python experience where you click on the thing and then 2 clicks in, boom, you're in C. It's just like wrapping C code, and it's hard to have that understanding of what's going on. Definitely, I'll have more understanding than just running, something locally and over the network and working with it. But I'm trying to understand: is everything implemented in Go, or at some point will I meet like, oh, it's wrapping a C library that actually does the hard work?
As long as it's not wrapping Python.
So let me say something. If you want, Go is very fast. For many things, is super good. But if you're doing math, number crunching, and it matters, right? If you every percentage point you squeeze, then you do the things in C, C++, or Rust, and you mix assembly, and so the lowest levels, if you're using the very fast engine, will be done in one of those. Now, not everything needs all that performance, and hence the Go engine, right? The simple Go engine that I wrote. It's much slower, but for many problems, it's there. It's easy, simple to read. It doesn't have any black magics, makes it simpler to read and to evaluate. But once money matters, if you have 1,000 servers, you're serving 1 million users, then you want to do whatever is the fastest, and that is really what I call black magic code inside these things that there are super optimized libraries to the last, to squeezing out the maximum performance a CPU allows, or a GPU or a TPU. And those will be in assembly, C++, more recently some in Rust, but it's still, I think, it's mostly C++.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to compete with like on that level with C libraries. Like even if you use Hugo and you keep clicking in your IDE, at some point you will hit C, right? I can tell you that, because so it's very hard to compete with the amount of man hours that basically went into optimizing that thing, right? But what we can do is offer, like as Ryan was mentioning, it's not just about the performance; it's just about the ecosystem, right? How easy is it to use? In Hugo, is like 3 lines, right? With 3, you import the library, Hugo library, and then you can set up your pipeline, quite easily in just a few lines of Go. Now with a simple Go backend, you don't even need the C stuff, right? So it's quite straightforward to do. You do see it now, for example, if you go to the documentation on set embeddings of Redis, like of the Go SDK for Redis, you will see that they now they use Hugo to calculate the vector embedding, and it's quite simple how to do that, right? If you want that kind of performance that Jan was mentioning, you will hit C also in Go in Hugo. There's no way around it.
Can I take a different take on this question? I think it always depends on what's the goal of the user. If the goal of the user is to improve their embeddings, to retrieve better results for whatever the user wants to search, then they want to know only they only need to know the machine learning level. What is the model doing and how to train better? And all of up to that level it's all go. Only if they want to know how matrix multiplications that optimize cache locality needs to be made. Then if they really want the fastest one, they will end up in the one DNN library that is done by Intel in C or C++, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, so even the framework level, you can do it in Go. It's really just a optimization part, let's say, that you do. Yeah.
Cool. So we talked quite a bit about sort of the architecture, how you're doing this, Python versus Go, a bunch of the technical stuff. Let's do a more fun question. I'm curious if there's any sort of ML AI projects or problems that you've worked on that you think are particularly fun. Have you been identifying ice cream flavors or anything that that's just fun to talk about over a beer?
Should I start or Riccardo?
Yeah, you can start. Yeah.
Okay, I'll say two that I'm very happy about.
Right.
The first one was an exercise in learning reinforcement learning with AlphaZero. You know, the famous DeepMind algorithm that beat everyone in chess and or in Go, right? They started with AlphaGo. I re-implemented it and for a small game called Hive. And because of the Go backend, that thing compiles to WebAssembly, and I just serve them for it from GitHub. You can play it, and was trained with GoMLX, and it's served or compiled to WebAssembly in GoMLX, and works. And anyone can learn how to do this type of games at AlphaZero. If you want to implement it, it works. Very easy.
Cool.
Another one that was super fun was working with flow matching or stable diffusion to generate images. I did a small, I didn't have the hardware to train it seriously, but it does generate flowers, pretty flowers out of nothingness, out of randomness. And it's a very educative and
I haven't seen these flowers. Now you have to show me the generated flowers. On my side, so I have actually, we did a lot of projects that are very interesting using Hugo. Unfortunately, a lot of them are like kind of proprietary things that I can't talk about. But what I would say is actually for me the most fun thing has been to see how other people are using this, right? In their project. So we actually talked with Jan, we're starting this thing and we're putting out these open source libraries motivated by our own needs, but then will some people use them and then will some people contribute back to them, right? And there's always this question around open source of like, there's like a lot of people to do work, and then you always hope that some contributions will come in. And it's been at the beginning there wasn't that much contributions coming back in, but actually in the last period that has improved, right? So people have started using Hugo in, as I mentioned, Bento. We have seen it used in Redis docs, but then also people opening more issues on the Hugo page. Hey, we wanted to do image recognition. Can you implement the image recognizer? Can you use the cross encoders? A lot of Go developers that needed variations on the semantic search use case came on the Hugo GitHub and asked, okay, well, do you have the cross encoder? Because I want to build my own note-taking app, and I need to be able to do, nice ranking, right, and embedding. And it's just been really fun to see people using something you built, right? So this is for me, it's the first kind of open source library that people are actually actively using. Jan has a lot more experience than me in open source. So for me, it's been a very fun ride for this. Just,
Yeah, nice.
and then there's always a bit of thriller, right? Like, oh, will people like this thing? And then, oh, maybe they will criticize how this was implemented, because Go programmers can always be quite critical of what's happening and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But it's been really fun.
Well, I want to thank you guys for both coming on the show and for the tools you're building. Even though they're not tools that I directly use, I'm really glad that they're there because I think it helps to advance the general. It helps to advance the Go ecosystem, but also just in general, just to advance.
If you're a backend / data scientist person at a company and you're just like, someone is making the argument, oh no, but we have to use Python because Python is for data science. You heard it here. Maybe you can get by with using Go.
Yeah.
For many applications, you can. For many common applications, you're perfectly
and
welcome.
any person that joins this like bandwagon, helps advance it just a little, one more, one bug report, one feature. Maybe you have your own little library, and suddenly, boom! 6 months from now, this tiny niche of data science is also available in Go.
Yes. I think, to tell you the truth, it should be available in every language, but my favorite one is Go, so I'm I'm pushing for our corner of the world.
Well, on that note, since Go is your favorite language, it's a great segue into the question we ask all of our guests, which is, who has been the most influential person for you? So there's two of you here in your Go journey. Perhaps somebody who introduced you to the language, or somebody who helped you learn new idioms or something like that. Who has influenced you the most in your Go journey?
You want to start, Jan?
Okay, yeah, I started it early. I started all by myself out of curiosity in Google. It was created there, right? And it was perfect for what I was doing. I was controlling hundreds of thousands of servers doing machine learning. And I needed something to control all this parallelism, things failing all the time and recovering. So I did a giant orchestrator there in Google. Everyone wrote one of those in Google Live. And it was hard to get code review for it because very few people were still doing. And at some point, and the Go team had a very strict readability requirements for Go. But since we didn't have anyone else in the team, and when we needed to get the product going, after some negotiation, Robert Griesmer was reviewing my code for 6 months, 8 months, and I was sending him cells, and he was telling me it was super useful. I mean, not only for Go, but also in general about language. And that was a good, very interesting experience.
What I wouldn't give to have someone like that review my code for 6 months.
It was a lucky. Yes, it was a lucky experience. Yeah.
Grab all the comments, feed them into Go MLX, and build a little, you know what I mean, a small language model that reviews your code the same.
The sad thing is, I hope Robert will never see my Go MLX code because some things.
After this one, he will, right?
One other downside of open source, people seeing all your Go.
Well, how about you, Riccardo?
I'm afraid I'm going to be not very original on this. I would mention two people. So one is my coworker and also co-contributor on Hugo. There's Rob Keevil, that is not here today, but he's also one of the main driving force behind Hugo. And my profile is different from him in the sense that I've been working with Go, well, now it's 3 years, but not more than that. Before that, it was Python, and before that, it was actually R, and before that, it was Lisp, right? So I actually come from a very different tradition. So actually, when I was mentioning about the types, I actually don't necessarily care too much about types in principle. I think you can do very good things without them. But I had a very different approach to programming when I started working with Rob. And he is in a way, the quintessential Go programmer in terms of let's keep things simple. Let's not generalize before we actually need to generalize. And I learn a lot from him also in working on Hugo. And the second person I will mention, and now it's going to sound like I'm glazing him, but definitely is Jan, because in working with Jan in the last year on GoMLX, but also in Hugo, but also on, for example, the Go Onyx library, I have learned so much about, that we can use Go for other things that is not only cloud backend engineering. And so these are my two candidates. Yeah.
Great. Good answers. Well, thanks again, guys, for coming on and talking to us about what you're working on. We will, of course, have links in the show notes to both Hugo and GoMLX. Is there anything else that you guys would like our readers, or our readers? I guess someone could read the transcript. Our listeners. Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to be aware of? Anything you want to share? Resources relevant to the topic.
One thing I will mention quickly is that related to what I was saying before, for us it's very important that people use the libraries, because that's also how we can actually get bug reports and so on and so forth. So if you don't need to be a data scientist, machine learning, right? So you can be like a developer or a backend developer, and we want to use some machine learning in your Go application. You think of a use case. Please come and try Hugo, try GoMLX. If there is something that you find that is not there, because obviously we develop Hugo in particular based on our own needs for Nights Analytics, our own company. But that would be wonderful. So some people have already started doing that, but we are always looking for more. Yeah.
Awesome.
I will make a last call on this. Also, if you want to learn about ML, even though GoMLX was done for researchers and for productionization, but it's an awesome place to learn about ML and experiment with new things. So if you're curious and you like Go, don't hesitate to go for it. We are all helpful there. We are few, but helpful people. And it's a great platform to learn ML.
Few, but friendly.
Great. Well, thanks again, guys. Appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Maybe we'll have you back on in a year and a half and talk about the new advancements in Hugo.
Yes, we'll look even more shiny, I hope.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.